Good afternoon, family. This is your Aunt Deborah. I want to give you some quick tips on how to prepare for a disaster. Now, again, my definition of disaster is that it could be anything that's expected or unexpected that is going to throw you back behind either financially, mentally, physically, what have you. So, again, right now we're going through COVID-19 and that's affecting people in many ways. So this is a disaster. So I'm giving you some tips on things that I learned growing up with Mama and Pop Pop, or some things I learned along the way. Now I'm going to talk real quickly. So if you have any questions, just give me a call and I can give you some more detail. But first off, you know, any disaster is going to impact you potentially in some financial way. So here's some ways to stretch your income. Buy bulk. If you recall, Moom and Pop Pop always brought bulk. So they were always prepared for whatever disaster may come their way. They had a freezer in the basement. They had like a mini store in the basement. Dry goods, canned goods, detergents, paper products. So they caught sales and stocked up all the time. We even went with them as they would go to the butcher that would chop up a whole cow so that we'd have it in the freezer. So buy bulk, buy used. There actually are some good quality things out there used. So keep that in mind. There are some times when something used would just do the trick. Barter or exchange. Now, I haven't done that, and I don't recall mom and dad necessarily doing that, but it's definitely something that people do. So keep that in mind. Make it yourself or do it yourself. Again, dad was a handyman and did all the work as much as possible around the house. He worked on the car. You know, we learned how to sew. We made our own clothing. We actually had our own sewing factory. We made dashikis and sold them. I do sewing myself right now and do a lot of things of my own around the house. So make it yourself or do it yourself. And then if you have to, of course, seek out somebody that will do the product or repair for you. But, shop around, get a couple of quotes and try to get your best quality of a product or a job done, with the least expense, or get it for free. I'm a Craigslist shopper, but I also am a scrounger. I keep gloves in my car all the time. I pick up things, off the street. Mom and dad actually did a lot of that, and I must have picked up their trait, but I have gotten things for free. But or also, even though it says free, I shop around. That's something I definitely learned from mom and dad. They shopped around. They went out of the city sometimes to find things at the most best bargain price. So it's get it for free or find something almost the exact same thing but at a bargain price. Now, figure out ways to get some extra income, so whatever the situation might be, and again, if it's financial constraints, then, if you don't have a job, get a job. If you have a job, you might have to get a second job, or you may have to create your own job, create your own little small business, or they call them a gig on the side right now. You may have some skills or services that you can make some money off of. So do all of those kind of things. If it's a long term constraint, then, get the additional education that would get you some additional income. And again, at these days, education can be free, it can be a week, it could be a couple of weeks, it can be months. It doesn't have to mean it's a 4-year degree. So there's definitely trades or skills that you can get in a short period of time that could bring you in additional income. So keep that in mind. And then again, you may already have a product or service or skill that you can use to produce additional income where you can produce that one time and it will continue to make money for you. And again, a good example of that is a book. you know, once you wrote that book, you're going to continue to make royalties on it. But there are other things that actually work the same way. You know, there are information products that can be created, webinars, people pay for, information, um, and you only create it one time. But there might be subscriptions, there may be some other things. So look for things that you can do once or twice, but that'll continue bring you income without you having to physically do the work repeatedly. And then, of course, save for a rainy day, because right now, as you see, we're going through this COVID-19 crisis, and you may have to draw on your savings. But if you hadn't been savings, then in the past, then there's nothing to draw on. So everyone is potentially either out of work or not sure if they're going to go back to work. They're hoping to get some government subsidy to cover them during this period of time. And many people are not going to get that because, again, if you weren't working and you might not have filed a tax form in the past couple of years, then you are not on the list of people that automatically are getting that $1,200 um, from the government. So you need to have had some other way of planning to have some money set aside. So don't live beyond your means. By all means, if you're only making a short bit of money, don't try to make it look like you're living, like you're making more money than you actually have. So try to live within your means. And again, if you're lucky enough to have a job or to have a business and you now got some increase in income, then you were living okay before that. So try to continue to live on that same money you had before that and consider putting some or all of that increase aside in savings or in investments or what have you. Again, make sure you have insurance for your car, insurance for your house, insurance for your life, insurance as a renter, because those things come in handy to cover whatever unexpected expenses may show up for whatever reason. And again, retirement income is only going to be there if, in fact, you paid into a retirement program, if you had a job that was putting aside Social Security and Medicare for you, along with your match. But if you didn't have any of those things, then don't expect there to be anything sitting waiting for you when you become 65 or whatever the retirement age is, because somebody would have had to put into something in your name for you to be expecting something at age 65. And again, that backup could have been the spouse. If you're lucky enough to have a spouse, then that spouse may have done those one of those three or all three of those things and may have listed you as a survivor or spousal benefit. And again, they would have had to have done that. So otherwise, then there is no money sitting. And so you need to have a plan. I mean, are you going to continue to try to work odd jobs past age 65 up to maybe possibly age 80 or 90? Or what are you going to be doing when you're going to get old and looking for money? Again, there's Medicaid, but don't plan around that. So again, we learned a lot by following some of the things that Mama and Pop Pop did. They were prepared for whatever situation that may happen. It could be because that's how they lived growing up in the South. It could be because they lived through World War II and the Depression. It could be because we were expecting World War III. We had to practice drills in elementary school. It could have been for whatever reason, but they had done almost everything on this page. They prepared, they had supplies, they had money set aside, they had insurances to cover whatever might happen, so keep all those things in mind. I know what we're going through right now, but when we come out of that, you need to try to plan for whatever else might come up. And again, it could be medical emergency, it could be a vehicle, had a repair that you wasn't prepared for. You could end up with additional children that you financially don't know how you're going to cover those expenses. It could be anything. So keep all those in mind. And again, these are tips from your aunt, D. Anissa, Aunt Deborah.